From WEEK, your home team. This is 25 News at 6.
There is no avoiding it. The snow is here for much of central Illinois, and by the looks of things so far, there is no sign of slowing down. It is a snow-filled Monday evening, everyone. I'm Tyler Lopez.
And I'm Caitlin Canute. Now, this is a reminder to take Old Man Winter seriously and be careful out there. The same system we're seeing now moved through Iowa earlier, where this crash involving dozens of vehicles left one person dead. As
many as 70 cars were involved in this massive crash. This is I-35 in Ames, Iowa. 5 other people critically hurt with injuries ranging from serious to the walking wounded.
People with inoperable cars were being taken away from this scene on buses, but look at this. They say those cars will be towed out later.
We are not hearing of any major accidents here yet, but the police department in Peoria did issue a traffic collision alert just a few minutes ago.
That means that if you're in an accident where no one is hurt and your vehicle is drivable, you should exchange information with any other drivers and then file a report later at the police department within 36 hours after that alert is canceled.
And of course, we are keeping our eye on the roads for you tonight. Weather tracker Jesse Gwynn and 25 News reporter Denise Jackson are also monitoring conditions in Bloomington and in Peoria.
We're going to check in with them momentarily to learn how crews are handling the weather. But first, we do want to begin our team coverage on the winter road conditions with Chief Meteorologist Chuck Collins. Chuck?
All right, Tyler and Caitlin, yeah, it's a mess out there. We've had some good snowfall totals down to about 4 to 5 inches in northern Knox and Stark counties in about an hour, hour and a half. So, yeah, it's coming down with gusto in some locations. Let's go outside, take a look at the IDOT Road Watch Camera Network. This is Peoria, the Murray-Baker Bridge. And, yeah, it's snowing at least moderately to heavy in Peoria. A couple of inches already down in River City and more to come. So that's what we're looking at right now. Satellite radar, notice the darkest of the blues. It looks like along I-74 from Galesburg, Peoria, and Bloomington normal. We're looking at some pretty good moderate to heavy snow bands, and this will race through the area and be done by about 10 o'clock or so. Winter weather advisory means we just have difficult conditions for travel out there. This will be until midnight, 3 to 6 inches along and north of I-74. In fact, a lot of us may come in at the upper tier of that range, and it's a cold snow. We're in the teens right now after starting the day below zero. More snow on the way. We'll check that out in a couple of minutes. Caitlin?
All right, thank you, Chuck. Continuing our team coverage now, we sent our meteorologist Jesse Gwynn to Bloomington to keep an eye on conditions in the Twin Cities.
He joins us live now with a look at how crews there are getting ready for what they're seeing now. Jesse, look at that.
Wow.
Yeah, Tyler, Caitlin, good evening. You can see I am covered in snow. This scene looks a lot different than it did an hour ago when I joined you here from downtown Bloomington, and we are right at one of the intersections where plows have came by us several times now. Look behind me at the fact that the plows have been coming through, yet the snow has just covered it right back up, and that's been our case. And as we head into the evening, crews are plowing the main roads first. Of course, that's a standard practice while the snow is still falling. Once the snow is done falling, crews will lay down the salt. While those trucks are out, it's important to remember safety first. Public Works Director Jim Karch says one dangerous area is intersections.
Be aware at intersections, those snowplow drivers have to clear that intersection. And so they might have to be taking a lot of non-standard movements, turning and making backing up movements. Slow down. Give them some space. Make sure they see you. Make sure they acknowledge you. It's best for you and for the plow driver as well.
Now, Karch says Bloomington will have around 24 plows out tonight. And, of course, it's important to remember that they'll treat the main roads first, then those side roads. And, of course, it is quite the task tonight as this snow is very thick. It's accumulating very fast, as you can see from the roads behind me once again. So we're going to continue to keep you up to date throughout the evening tonight. Be very careful on the roads this evening. Use caution. Leave plenty of room behind the vehicle in front of you. Leave extra room to stop. Don't be out if you don't have to, because, of course, that would solve a lot of issues. Use caution if you do have to be out, though. That's the gist of things here tonight. Again, team coverage will continue to keep you updated on the snow situation. Chief Meteorologist Chuck Collins has much more on how much we'll see coming up in just a little bit. For now, I'll send it back to the studio. Meteorologist Jesse Gwynn, live in Bloomington for 25 News.
Be safe, too, as you start driving in that snow. Incredible how much it has changed in just an hour. Yeah. Now, in Peoria, we could also see, as you heard Chuck say, 3 to 6 inches, probably on the higher tier overnight.
Well, public works crews are on extended shifts right now, going into the evening for that very reason. 25 News reporter Denise Jackson joins us live in downtown Peoria with a look at how they're preparing for the rest of the snowstorm. Denise?
Tyler and Caitlin, the message for drivers on their way home: so be safe and take it slow. Peoria Public Works crews are doing 12-hour shifts today. They have spent the day prepping salt trucks and getting snowplows ready for what could be a busy week ahead. Supervisor Cy Maroon says with the snow expected to continue throughout this evening, they won't be able to focus on plowing until after the evening commute.
If we can get out ahead of them a little bit, then of course it's going to make it easier for them, but it's going to be challenging for everyone. And we just, at that point, all you can do is say be safe and be slow.
Now, with that, Maroon says they'll be amping up road treatment after most of the drivers are off the road, and they've asked drivers to make sure that they keep ample distance between snowplows as well as the salt trucks. Live in downtown Peoria, I'm Denise Jackson. Now back to you, Tyler and Caitlin.
Thank you, Denise. You be safe out there with your photographer, Larry, as well. The Peoria Public Schools, meanwhile, is canceling all after-school activities tonight for all primary, middle, and high schools due to the predicted heavy snowfall. They've been paying attention to Chuck. After-school activity buses will not operate. Varsity athletic and activity teams should check in with their coaches to find out if their practice schedules have changed or have been canceled, as a winter weather advisory again in effect, as Chuck's been saying, until midnight.
5 years after the largest mass closure of public schools in an American city, Chicago is forging ahead with a plan to close 4 more schools in one of the city's highest crime and impoverished areas. School officials are pitching the new closures around Englewood on Chicago's south side in order to make way for a new $85 million school that they insist will better serve students and reverse low enrollment. For some parents, though, students and activists, they are skeptical, saying they're still reeling from the closures back in 2013. And they feel the latest plan will make things worse, including possibly displacing hundreds of mostly poor, low-income teenagers. School leaders say nothing is final until an expected vote on February 28th.
Republican candidate for governor Jeannie Ives says her contentious campaign ad against Governor Bruce Rauner is, quote, an accurate representation of policies her rival Governor Rauner has endorsed, despite critics blasting that ad as being racist and homophobic. The ad features actors portraying people, including a transgender woman and a Chicago Teachers Union member, all thanking Rauner. The state GOP chairman called for her to take down the ad and apologize. State Representative Jeannie Ives says that ad that began airing this weekend illustrates the GOP governor's, quote, chosen constituents based on the policy choices he made, end quote. Ives says GOP primary voters need to know about Rauner's betrayals of conservatives.
The Chicago area could see a nearly 2-week delay in early voting. That's due to candidate ballot challenges. Early voting starts statewide on Thursday, but in Chicagoland, those ballots won't be ready in time because of ongoing candidate objections. Roughly 3 million registered voters will be affected. It's unclear yet, though, if any other locations will see delays.
Tonight, the man killed in a traffic stop that left a Peoria police officer injured will be at the center of a stand-up for peace. It's happening right now, in fact, at Peoria's Gateway building. Here's a recap of what we know about that incident so far. Police say Daniel L. drove off during a traffic stop, lost control of his car, and took off running. Police say that led to an exchange of gunfire that left L dead after being shot 16 times and an officer injured. While the investigation continues, it remains unclear if a gun was recovered, whether the officer was hit by L or friendly fire, or if L was struck from behind or in front. But again, these are all questions we're trying to get answered. Peoria Community Against Violence will not be taking a position on what happened. Instead, they say they are simply calling for peace in Peoria. We'll have much more on that event. That's coming up tonight at 10.
The passing of a local legend now. Funeral services are set for former state senator and Peoria County Sheriff George Shadid, who died early Saturday at the age of 88. Shadid joined the Peoria Police Department as an officer back in 1953 and served with the department until his run for sheriff from 1976 to 93. He also served as a state senator from 1993 to 2006. A visitation will take place tomorrow from 4 to 7 p.m. at St. Charbel Catholic Church on West Scenic Drive. A funeral mass will also take place Wednesday morning at 10.
Another train crash in South Carolina killed 2 over the weekend and left more than 100 people hurt. 6 passengers remain hospitalized now, 2 of them in critical condition. That accident happened early yesterday morning when the passenger train was diverted from the main line onto a side track where it collided with a parked freight train. Amtrak's been involved in 3 high-profile crashes in the last 7 weeks, now renewing calls for quicker implementation of positive train control. Dan Sheneman reports.
Investigators on scene at a fatal Amtrak crash in South Carolina are focusing on why a manual switch was locked in the wrong position, sending the train onto the wrong track and into a parked freight train.
Bodies everywhere. People on top of one another. I couldn't move.
The train was en route from New York to Miami with 147 people on board when it slammed into an empty CSX freight train that was parked on a side track.
The Amtrak train was operating on CSX track, owned by CSX and controlled by CSX.
The collision happened around 2:30 Sunday morning, while most of the passengers were asleep.
You know, you don't expect to wake up with bouncing off of chairs and people next to you bleeding. You know, maybe it's a few broken noses, teeth knocked out.
Killed in the crash were the train's conductor, Michael Sella, and engineer, Michael Kemp, whose brother says he was concerned about rail safety.
He told me, he says, one of these times something's going to happen and I'm not going to walk away from it.
Authorities say a system called positive train control, which can detect the location of trains and the position of switches, might have prevented the crash. Now, investigators are trying to determine why the passenger train was diverted off the main line and onto a side track with tragic results. Dan Sheneman, NBC News.
Yeah, a lot of questions that remain in that story. In other national news, the once booming stock market is now freaking out.
The Dow finished more than 1,100 down today and even briefly fell 1,500 points, the largest single intraday drop in Dow history. The S&P 500 also fell 4.1%. That's the largest single-day drop since 2011. And the Nasdaq was down 3.8%.
The selling comes the same day Jerome Powell took over as the new Federal Reserve chairman, expected to raise interest rates. But the markets are still up dramatically since Donald Trump became president.
Black History Month brings a special historical display to the Cat Visitor Center in Peoria, including an election banner from 1860 for one Abraham Lincoln, who would go on to win the Civil War and free America's slaves. This display also goes up to the Great War, World War II, where the first black military airmen served in the Air Force branch of the Army, known forever as the Tuskegee Airmen. And Randy Robinson of Peoria has a special place of honor.
I hope that they leave with a little bit of knowledge about what's going on in our community and the important work that the African American Hall of Fame does.
This is the second year CAT has offered this type of a display. It'll be open to the public through the end of the month. Regular admission is typically $7 for adults. Next on 25 News, most of the week has chances for snow and quite a bit of it.
Chuck's breaking down the numbers for us. He has the full forecast that's on the way.
You're watching 25 News at 6 with Tyler Lopez, Caitlin Canute, Chief Meteorologist Chuck Collins, and Jim Matson Sports. 25 News is your home team.